Alright, buddy, let's roll. Alright, buddy. What's up, guys? My name is Ken, and welcome to my channel, Mannequin, where I give you the most bizarre and crazy car videos on YouTube, or at least try to. And today, what I want to talk about is my recently acquired 2007 Ferrari F430 Spider. Let's get into it. So before we get started, I want to first announce my very emotional background with the Ferrari F430 Spider. I was a 14-year-old boy just starting high school when this car came out. Didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and when I first saw this car, I knew I had to have it. I only saw pictures, videos on YouTube, which were probably at that time about 180 pixels. The 5th year video with Tiff Nadell drifting it around the racetrack, exceptional in my opinion. I knew I had to have it. Well, fast forward 16 years later, and after making a risky $40,000 investment, I present you with my 2007 Ferrari F430 Spider. I was hesitant about Ferrari ownership, as I previously had worked on Maseratis with some friends, and really did not want to get involved with any kind of Ferrari branded product after that. It was one day I was looking at Bring a Trailer, and I saw this 2007 Ferrari F430 Spider, and began to bid on it, and I bid higher and higher and higher, and then all of a sudden I realized that I had just spent $125,000 on the car that started it all for me. After the auction was complete, I then wired to the dealer more money than I had ever wired in my entire life to anyone or any organization, and waited. I would like to make it known that there is a 5% auction fee on Bring a Trailer, which I believe in my case was around $5,000 or $6,000, something like that. I also had to pay my state taxes in North Dakota, which were 5%, and around $2,000 in shipping. I eagerly awaited my car. It took about 3 weeks until I got it. I was somewhat worried that the car wouldn't meet my expectations of everything I'd ever dreamed of in this car. When it showed up, that all changed quickly. As you can tell, this is the most glorious sounding V8. I have had many cars, none to this caliber. I also have a 2007 Z06 Corvette, a 2008 Dodge Viper, and I've had Hellcats, AMG Mercedes, etc. Nothing feels like this does. It is by far the slowest car I've ever owned, but the sound, the way it feels, the road presence, there is nothing like it. So having no knowledge of what basically makes the F1 transmission work, how it works, how to properly use it, other than a few short tutorials on YouTube, I was in for quite the surprise. I know everyone always talks about swapping these cars to manual, so I knew it would be underwhelming, or at least believed it to be underwhelming, and that I wouldn't like it. Initially when I got the car, it was very slow shifting, would often drop gears between shifts, and again, we're talking about a car that had only 10,000 miles when I got it. So I did some research and quickly bought the Launch X431 device off of Amazon. This is simply a handheld device, looks kind of like an iPad that you plug into the OBD sensor. It can run all of the Ferrari self-learning, diff bleed, F1 bleed, etc. So once I got that, my clutch read 65%, so I knew that wasn't an issue. I then changed the accumulator, which is basically, the way you can think of it, is what holds pressure between shifts. Once I changed that, did a bleed on the F1 system, this was a totally different animal. I have no desire whatsoever of swapping this to a manual at this point, unless I start to have some really bad F1 problems down the road. The way I can explain the Ferrari F1 transmission is that basically there is a hydraulic pump shifting the gears for you and operating the clutch. It feels just like a manual transmission. This is one of few automatic cars that I've owned and didn't think it would be that rewarding. It is. So basically, when you start the car, it defaults to neutral, and at any time you can pull both paddles, go straight into neutral, rev it up if you want. Flip the paddle up, it will go to the appropriate gear. Between shifts, I often noticed that it was quite clunky, and that was because I wasn't taking my foot off the gas, basically. At lower throttle, it seems to be, in my opinion, you should take your foot off of the gas between shifts to avoid that dreaded clunk that you can get sometimes. Again, kind of like a manual transmission. However, between wide open throttle shifts, keeping your foot pinned to the floor is what really makes it feel nice. One thing that did take me a lot of getting used to, which in a manual kind of just comes straightforward to anyone that knows how to drive a manual, is rev matching. Do you have to rev match the Ferrari F1 transmission? No. Will it do it for you? Somewhat, but it's going to be harsh on the transmission. So basically, the way I learned to do it, it seems to work better in race mode, but you can also do it in sport mode like I have now. Pull the paddle, and as soon as you touch the paddle, flip the throttle. Just like that. Also, what takes some getting used to, as you can tell there, is the way you literally come out of the seat on full throttle up shifts. It feels like the car is almost tearing itself apart. Again, it's a common Ferrari thing from what I've read, and I've put about 5,000 miles on this car in the few short months that I've owned it, and I've had no issues and drive it very aggressively every day. So, other things that happened when I first got the car, I noticed that the car had the Ferrari Sport exhaust on it. Most of the F430s have that big center muffler, and this one does not. It's technically 2 4-cylinders on each side, no crossover between them. It sounded okay, but I wanted it to sound better. So, after reading so much about the dreaded header failure on the Ferrari F430s, which is basically a result of the way the catalytic converter is situated in the header on a bend, and also the rigidity with the factory Ferrari suitcase muffler that doesn't allow any flex, and eventually that starts to crack over time right around that curvature. So I went ahead and ordered a set of Fab Speed headers for this car. The install was relatively straightforward. I did have one header bolt that broke off in the cylinder head, and I had to weld multiple nuts on the end of it before I could eventually get it out. So that was not fun. But once it was on the car, the first drive was a game changer for me. The exhaust really came to life. Currently, I still have those 2 small mufflers. It still does not have an X pipe on it, though there is a video to come on that. That just doesn't get old. Other issues to mention on this car is a lot of the times the fuel pumps do need to be updated, as they are often cracked. So what you want to look for in these cars is if there is a yellow top or a white top. Yellow top generally means it's an updated fuel pump. Another note on that is I was worried that since I bought a Spider, that it would be much harder to change the fuel pumps. It isn't. Actually, you get your top in about the halfway up position, and you have 2 portals that you open with some Allen heads, and the fuel pumps are right there. It's actually far easier to change than a coupe. Other things I had to update on this car was the awful stereo system. There is a great company out there by the name of Scuderia Audio. I bought all of his speakers for this car, replaced the 2 subs back here, which one of them is not actually even a sub, it's just what's called a passive radiator. Very cheap in quality. I also upgraded the amplifier to the amp from Scuderia Audio. Some basic repair costs that I've had for this so far, which I can compare to other cars I've had, is let's say the oil change. The oil change on this car is probably about $20 more to do myself than my Corvette Z06. The reason being is the oil filter is kind of pricey at around 50 bucks. Otherwise, it takes the same amount of oil, around 10 or 11 quarts, And it's pretty much a similar mechanism because it's a dry sump oil system, which means you usually have two spots where you have to drain the oil, one out of the oil reservoir and one out of the small oil pan on the bottom of the engine. Another thing to mention is when I did the headers on this car, I did have this car tuned by Mace Engineering out of Florida. Basically, you have two ECUs behind each seat. It takes about 10 minutes to remove both of them, put them in the mail. They come back to you within a few days and your car is tuned. Throughout this whole process, the most reliable resource that I've had for this car is Normal Guy Supercars YouTube channel. He has exceptional videos walking you through many of the processes on this car, which make it much less daunting. To my surprising, this car is actually very easy to work on. So, if you want more great car videos like this one, and much more bizarre and wild ones to come, please subscribe to my channel and like this video, comment as well. Thank you. You didn't think I was going to leave without one more full throttle blast, did you?